Sales meeting. We're pre-recording this, so if you put any comments in, we won't answer them live, but feel free to still comment because we're going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and respond to them as needed. The reason we're pre-recording it, we're only an hour early, is because we have an RPAC meeting.
Woo!
What is RPAC?
Realtor Party Political Action Committee.
Political Action.
Yeah, I didn't need to know what it stood for. I need to know what we talk about.
So the reason why that we have it though is Janet's on it, you're on it, and I'm on it, and V's on it.
Yeah.
So we had to do it early.
So we discussed candidates and topics relevant, and you should have got a voter guide actually that was put out by the state.
Yep.
And it just recommends realtor-friendly candidates.
One of my topics that I have for the meeting is about that. Can I bring it up now?
Topic.
No, you can be your topic.
That's why I brought it up. Let's cover it.
I think we start with Shelley.
Well, but it's apropos.
It's always about you.
It is. No.
Let's get this stuff out of the way.
Somebody asked why we don't pick judges, right? And Janet, we've talked about that for years, about the fact that you go to vote and you have like 2 candidates you're voting for actual office that cover your area, and then you have like 38 judges. Right?
It's messing this year.
It's crazy. And so they asked the question, why don't we select realtor-friendly judges? Because judges affect, real estate transactions, they affect laws that cover them. And so the reason I've been given is it's too much work, because we have to interview every judge that runs, which there's literally hundreds of them, and we'd have to sit them through these different meetings. And so they feel it's kind of out of the wheelhouse of what the PAC was set up for.
But shouldn't the judge be impartial? It doesn't matter how they feel. They have to uphold the letter of the law.
Sure.
Well, that's how the system is.
Have you ever seen a Supreme Court nominee?
Just gonna say. You just solved all the problems.
Exactly.
But the whole thing is,
and this year for judges, I don't know if you looked at them, there's I think half of them are unopposed.
yeah.
Oh.
There's a ton of them, but like half of them, they don't even.
Do you notice it's like letters of the alphabet, like Sesame Street, like Department A, number 1? I mean, it's like, and it goes all the way. I saw like that Q, Department Q, right? But we did try this year for the first time ever to try to get some judges vetted, because there's some Supreme Court, state Nevada Supreme Court judges that are running, and they asked for realtor support, and so we kind of went down that road. But I think someday, Brandon, he's president of the state, will do it.
Well, I mean, that makes sense at the higher court, right? I mean,
It should. It's the appeal, and
they're the final decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. So that's your topic.
well, that was just one of them, because someone
We'll come back to
asked.
some
You
other
look
ones.
like you have 4 though.
Don't look at my list.
Well, I wanted to present a present today to Janet.
I know what that
Well, don't get too excited, because you may not like it. But anyway, here you go. I'd like you to open it on air and show everybody, please.
Oh.
I get to keep the bubble wrap.
is. Oh,
Yeah.
our 3-year-old is at the table. He wants to pop the bubble.
I need something.
When was your birthday?
Tomorrow.
I can't get that.
Gentlemen.
No,
There you
thank you.
go.
And let me just.
I'm gonna hang this in my office. I just have to find a special.
This,
Oh my
this would be the last time I embarrass Mike over this event. But
How's that embarrassing?
are you kidding me? I'm sending
That's
one
just
to
a regular Friday night for him.
I'm sending one to his daughter too.
Oh,
This
yes.
is why he comes to me.
Right?
I know it. They don't have this kind of excitement in Alaska.
So if you can't see it, it's Mike dressed up in his tutu and
You
his
don't
bra,
want to see it, actually.
in front of the balloon thing for the Bronze for a Cause. But it will be hanging proudly in Janet's office,
That's
so if you want to
awesome.
swing by and see that.
I thought there was going to be one hanging proudly in every office.
You want one?
Yeah.
You really do.
I just have a question. Where
Hang it in the bathroom.
this
this
is
wrong?
perfect. His fairy wings are on. His glitter's on.
I don't remember who bought his.
Look at all the money.
It was us.
We did. We bought it.
Yeah.
We did.
Not us.
No, it was.
That's awesome.
There were 8 of us that pooled our money
We had
to
to.
buy Mike's bra.
I just want to know why it's still sitting on the floor in the
Oh, is
office
it?
over there.
I thought we were going to get it framed.
You got a frame.
No, I got the bra.
Like
We'll put it below it like
And
the
a
hard rock.
shadow box.
Yeah.
Wow.
well, there's
okay.
a Christmas idea.
Well, that's
Anyway.
a lot.
That was fun. So now we'll go to Shelley and she'll
Top that.
lighten things up.
I
with the
don't know if
mortgage
I can
info.
follow Mike's beautiful picture there. So I'll bring up two topics since I've been asked to bring up two topics if I can not laugh. So I want to share a story about one of my clients who just recently had a baby, or actually he had two babies. He had twins.
He did. That's weird.
Yeah.
With his wife.
I saw that movie.
together.
Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it. It was a good movie.
And
Called
he's
me,
very rich.
So they had a set of twins, two little girls. He called me up and wanted to do a cash out refinance. Had a little bit of equity in the home. He purchased the home when they first got married. I think it was about 5 years ago. So he pulled out he wanted to get a cash out refinance, and I asked him why, of course. And he said, well, I want to pick up 2 investment properties for my daughters. I'm like, they're like 0 and 0, 1 month and 1 month. Are they going to be landlords, or like, what are you going to do with them? It's like, my goal is for me to purchase this home for them today. I can afford to make my payment on the cash out side of it, right? Because it's going to be it's going to increase their current loan amount. But the goal would be that rent on the property would ultimately pay off that mortgage when they turn 16 to help them buy a car, when they turn 18 to help them pay for college, or 30 plus when they want to get married. That's going to be my goal for my daughter. And I thought to myself, man, I suck as a mom. Why did I come up with that brilliant idea? Because today I'm struggling to figure out how I'm going to pay for a car for my 16-year-old, or if I do pay for a car for my 16-year-old. But had I started at day 0 or 1 month, when she was 1 month, and thinking on to do something like this, what that would have done for her, or what it would do for her in the near future. And so we talk a lot about rates being really, really low, right? And how it helps in our move-up borrowers. That was one other opportunity for my client to really take advantage of the equity in their home, still keep his mortgage payment went up by $100 on his current home doing the cash out refinance. They took 20% out, which basically helped them to purchase the 2 properties at 25% down. Actually, it's 20% down. And now they have an investment property for their daughters, which they're titling for their daughters, literally for their daughters, in their trust, and it's all been assigned to them. So I want to share that story because there's other opportunities in refinancing. I'd also encourage you to get out there as a sales tip to talk to your clients to see what opportunities they have with rates being low, whether it's your farming, whether it's the owners today and they just need some assistance in getting their payments down. I mean, we helped somebody with a cash out refinance as well. She was paying $3,500 in total debt. Her mortgage payment today with a cash out is $2,000. So she's saving $1,500 a month.
Wow.
Debt load. So, I mean, there's a lot of benefits outside of just moving up that lower interest rates can serve. So if you have any questions on that, you want us to run a quick scenario, there's no obligation, no credit reports need to be pulled. It would just really be scenario opportunities. Know that us at Prosperity Lending can definitely help you out with that.
So if you dropped an interest rate from let's say you bought your home 5 years ago, it's in the 5s, high 5s, you drop it to 3 now. I've heard some people get into the 2s.
Yeah.
That's massive. That's
totally.
That 4% a month on $300,000.
I mean, I think I was the last one. I think I'm the last one to the party as far as refinancing. I purchased my home 15 years ago. I think everybody
Horrible real estate client.
And I kept my rate of 5.5% through these years. Being in the industry, just always the last one to take care of stuff. And I finally refinanced my home, and it is saving me $700 on a...
That pays for a car for your daughter right there.
Oh my God!
Financed her home and bought a home for Sydney.
Yes,
So
exactly.
a little late, but hey.
Right.
But the true moral of the story is, if Sydney's watching, your mother just said, you're not getting married till after you're 30.
Oh, she's already knows.
Just so you know, Sydney's not watching.
It's way too early.
It is pretty amazing though. You think of all those people that during the downturn in 2011 or 2012 bought those condos for $30,000, and they were renting still for $700-800 a month, and now they're worth $100,000, $120,000, $140,000. But where could you get $800 a month? And you've now paid it off because the entire investment's been paid back. That's residual income.
That's right.
It's like having an extra job.
It's like having mailbox money, right?
Yeah.
Mailbox money.
Shows up.
Yep.
That was one. That's one.
And my second topic is our self-employed borrowers. So I'm starting to dig into my database to basically go back into my leads that couldn't qualify for a home because maybe they just entered into...
Oh, you're calling my leads up?
Yeah, all of Chris's, because they're all brand new self-employed, or they just needed that extra year to help them to get their self-employed income together. And right now, as the holidays are starting to approach, I know you don't like the holiday season, but the first of the year is going to come
Didn't you
right.
get the notice?
No.
Canceled.
It has?
Scrooge.
Wondering if we're going to do a Halloween. So tapping into our past database and really circling back with them just to see if they, just to remind them that they've got to file tax returns and that they probably want to get with somebody who can lead them down the path to know what they need to file before they file, because it's always harder to go and amend. And then it also sets them up for success in what they're going to look to purchase, right, in 2021. So just wanted to share that tip for you.
That sounds like a bunch of the realtors too.
Yes, I do a lot
Self-employed, right?
of my realtors. We have very many, yes, we've had some great conversations and like maybe next year we'll work on this together.
But at least they know where they're at, right?
That's right.
So I mean, if you want to get on the road to home ownership, if you don't already have one or you want to buy another one,
Yeah.
it'd be a good time to talk to Shelley and her team as well.
That's right.
That was
Those are good topics.
Two great topics.
You like
Yeah,
that?
those are
Good.
great.
Thank
Where
you.
do we go from there,
I already gave one of mine, so I think we go to the other side of the table.
Todd?
So I've got a scenario that I like to run across. I'm hoping that there's some disagreement at the table about it, so we can kind of talk through it, because as this happens once or twice a month, literally, every scenario is a little bit different. So let me give you the scenario. So we represent the seller, and the buyers come in and write an offer, it gets accepted, we go through all the contingencies, get down to the close of escrow. Lender has said multiple times, we're all good. Of course, it's not Shelley, the lender, it's some other lender. And come a couple of days before close, the lender comes back and says, well, we've got this new rule change in lending that's affecting this loan and we need to get an extension. So seller grants the buyer a 2-week extension, let's say. 2 weeks go by, a couple of days before closing, lender comes back and says, we just need 1 more week. So of course the seller grants 1 more week extension, and that extension ended on the 19th. So
you're on a 3-week
So
extension.
yesterday. So we're on a 3-week extension. And the seller and the lender comes back and says, guys, we just need 10 more days. Wow. And the seller says, no, thank you. They send over an addendum that says close of escrow to be extended by that 10 days. And the seller, based on our meeting last week, takes the addendum and writes rejected on it and sends it back to the other side so that the buyers immediately know that they're not getting any kind of extension. And the 19th goes by, and there's been no resolution on this. They didn't close. And so what happens next? Like, the buyers, in this case, won't agree to cancel escrow. So the listing agent has sent over a cancellation. They won't sign it. They've sent over an addendum to cancel escrow and something separate about EMD. They won't. So the question arises that, well, when I, the listing agent, put this property back on the market, which is going to be today, the 20th, because it didn't close yesterday per the contract, there's the first question. Can I put it back on the market without cancellation from the other side?
Don't all jump at once.
So yes,
Okay.
it used to be, you remember years ago, you could not relist a property that you didn't have a fully executed cancellation. It was an MLS rule, not a state law. And so the MLS thought that was handicapping a seller, kind of holding them captive. So they changed that policy to say that you need a signed cancellation from your party because the buyer didn't perform. So you pass your close date. That's the only out for a seller, by the way, is they can't cancel for any reason, but if you blow the close date, then the seller could cancel for that reason. All they have to do is notify you that I'm canceling from the fact that you didn't close. They can say whatever they want about the earnest money. Both parties could agree to cancel and put the earnest money in dispute, by the way. That can always be done.
That was the 2 different addendums
Yeah.
we talked about.
And then you can put the home back on the market. They did say, though, a couple of attorneys, Dave Sanders said this in one of our classes, that you should put it back subject to cancellation of current escrow. Now, that really doesn't mean anything because it goes into agent-to-agent remarks. But if you go under contract and you go into litigation during your escrow, and it's not subject to possible litigation, meaning the cancellation of the other deal, before this deal closes, they could file a list pendants against you, right?
Who's
So
they?
they is the buyer,
The original buyer.
the original
Yeah.
buyer. And so you could go down the road and sell it. Escrow could actually escrow it. There are some companies that wouldn't double escrow, meaning the old escrow is still open. They have this escrow. Some companies got rid of that rule as long as there's conforming documents.
That's a good point. Let me expand that just a little bit.
Yep.
Real quick. So that's been one of the concerns. The question was, well, I only work with XYZ title company typically, and they need a fully executed from both parties addendum to cancel this. And once I get it under contract, which I think is going to be really quickly because we went under contract in a few days the first time.
Sure.
I won't have an escrow company to send it to.
So, the seller should probably talk to an attorney at this point, but he's right on the subject to cancellation. Not only do you put it in the agent date for
In the
remarks,
contract.
when you receive an offer, you counter back and make sure that that's in there. Because otherwise, you're going to be put in a position, if that does go to court, you can't sell it to these people, but you're contractually obligated to sell to them.
And you double
So now
solve the
you've got
problem.
yourself in a bigger problem.
Well, so I guess my concern there is close of escrow, it's over. Close of escrow didn't happen.
But it's not over for everybody.
But it should be, because that's what the contract says, right?
Yeah, so
And the seller's fulfilled his end of it by notifying in writing that they're not. The hang up here now is
Not
the
moving
title
forward.
company or the escrow company not closing out escrow based on what the contract said. They're wanting
Well, it to be executed.
executed.
well, it was,
So at that
the
point,
close of escrow happened, right? Now the recordation didn't happen, but escrow closed on the 19th. It's over.
Well,
Canceled,
Well,
yeah.
the contract terminated on that date technically by its guidelines.
Which anytime a contract.
But remember, everyone wants,
terminates the contract.
but everyone closed.
it didn't
No,
close.
well, it didn't record.
But it didn't
But it
close.
closed on the 19th.
No, closing
No,
it
states,
didn't close.
all documents signed and recording, it didn't close. Because
Terminology of closing
if
means
you
it-
say it closed, then that buyer should be getting the keys if they mark close of escrow. So it did not close.
So first thing, I want to go back to your original point about the lender, right? When it's not Shelley, because Shelley's a great lender who communicates, follows up. Oldest rule of real estate is don't believe other people's BS,
That's right.
right?
90%.
Never trust what you hear, only trust what you can prove. And so when that happened, new law or not, I notice a lot of people just take whatever someone says for granted and they just go by it. I've learned a long time ago that if the lender says 2 weeks, you should get a month, right? If it's not someone that you usually work with, because technically they don't control that, the underwriter does. And if you're not talking with the underwriter and you're talking with the lender, how do you know that's going to be upheld? And by the way, she's never blown a close date on any of my deals. That's a huge trust factor, right? But lenders who blow close dates, do you think they care?
No.
No, they don't care at all.
So always get more than they've asked for. Don't tell them about that though. Just work on that idea because there's always an extension. If you get down to close of escrow and they ask for 2 weeks, it's going to be 3-4. Guaranteed, right? And we've all seen that.
But here's the other thing, they tell you something's changed, what's changed? And then you go verify it.
Yep.
Call somebody
Yeah,
else that's
that's-
reputable and find out if that's true.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I thought the same thing. So now our agent, can they put it back on the market today as long as it says pending cancellation of current escrow?
Because you've blown the
Yes.
close date.
Yeah.
Now, did you notice them of cancellation?
Say that again?
Did you notice them of your seller's intent to cancel?
Yes, that
So
was
you-
sent over.
you did an addendum?
Seller signed it. We
Or
did a
cancellation addendum.
Seller signed it. It went to escrow. Escrow knows
Yep.
the seller's canceling. The buyers know that seller's canceling. The buyer's agent, and I think we'll talk a little more about this in another subject that I've heard roaming around today, won't have them sign it because it doesn't refund all of their EMD. And so they're using they're trying to use the cancellation as leverage to try to get all of their earnest money back.
Did they use the cancellation addendum in the transaction?
We did.
Because there's the two separate sections,
Yeah,
right?
he did.
Okay, because they can cancel escrow and dispute the
Yep.
earnest money, and that's the proper way to do it.
I've had earnest money dispute for years, by the way. I mean, we had a short sell. It didn't close. We put it back on, sold it to somebody else. This buyer refused to communicate for like a year. It sat in escrow. About every 3 or 4 months, we'd say, hey, you want to do something today? No. And it went on and on and on. And some title companies, they have a fee that they'll charge. I mean, they could eat away at the earnest money to do it. But it could sit in dispute for as long as it needed to, but there was no reason to go around it and file it. If you file a wrongful list penance against someone's property, they can sue you for damages outside of the terms of the contract.
Right.
So that's why you don't just throw that out there.
Well, that's why we suggest that they go talk to an attorney.
Absolutely.
Because we don't want something like
And if
that.
you have this happen, you should come to a broker before they call any attorney. You should let one of us know so that we're involved before it happens.
If I'm not mistaken, we actually have Dave Sanders next week.
We
So
do.
Tune in for that and bring your legal questions
Bring
too.
that question to the table. So can I just ask, like, why would the buyer's agent not prepare that buyer for the potential like cancellation? Is that just in good faith?
Well, so the buyer's agent says that they're not advised, that they weren't able to get a loan because of terms that the federal government changed during the loan. They had to switch it from Fannie Mae to Freddie Mac due to some scenario. And so they're telling themselves a really good story on why they should get the earnest money back.
Yeah.
And the reality is the contract clearly says they don't.
I think the other side of that is leverage, right?
I mean, leveraging it.
Yeah. So I'll be honest. I know the contract says that we cancel this. I don't make those decisions. The buyer does, right? And so my job to say to the buyer is, your lender can't close on your loan. We've gone through this far. You've got $3,000 in earnest money. By the terms of the contract, that money's owed to the seller. Right? That's the end of the story. But it's your decision, Mr. Buyer, what liability you want from this point on. I need your instruction in writing. Here are your options. And one of those options is, I'll sign a contract today to release half that money to the seller if they gave me my half today.
Yeah.
That's negotiation,
Right.
Or it's leverage, right? They're leveraging their earnest money, which is what it's there for. It's good faith to leverage a deal. And I think that a lot of agents start taking that onto themselves and they don't have any client input. And that's where agents lose their licenses.
Well, we talked about another scenario today already that it's, agents get in the way of a transaction, and it's
All the time.
and it's it causes people to lose their license. It's
The
not.
question I'm going to have for Dave next week is this. In the purchase agreement, in the default section, it states that the seller must accept the earnest money for liquidated damages.
Yep.
They can't go back and sue the buyer if they get
Correct.
the earnest money. If the buyer does not release that earnest money, then could they go sue?
Yes, they can.
And so that's opening up way more liability for that buyer at that point. But we'll get verification on that from Dave because he's the attorney and go from there. But if you're advising your clients not to release that earnest money and to tie it up, you could be causing more damage than it's worth.
Is there any issue for the listing agent to basically open it up and say, I need you to take, before we extend, do a second look with another lender and give it? Because I know
That's what a smart agent would do and say, hey, let's run this by somebody else.
I would have done that after the second extension.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't even get into the third.
At
The first extension,
you
yeah.
might have had a talk to somebody. Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that. There's,
No.
because I get a lot of.
So here's the other thing I want to bring up about this point is the agent is very concerned that that they possibly cannot use their favorite escrow officer for
The
the
agent's
second
not gonna use it.
transaction.
The agent needs to move on and
Okay.
do the best thing possible for their client.
All right,
So that's to get a title company that can close that
that's,
legally.
Yes, that's exactly what I want to get across.
There's some major RESPA violations when agents start dictating title. Like everyone throws out Title IX. One of the main things is they forget about the other titles, right? 1 through 8 that were there before. One of those is an agent steering a client towards a certain company because of their value instead of the client picking it.
Right.
And you can actually cause liability for a seller to be in violation of RESPA because you steered them when they're not paying all the fees. And that's why it's even in effect to begin with.
Yeah, it's to protect the general public,
Yeah.
right? So the point I want to make by saying this is that our job is to protect our client. It isn't to work with our favorite lender, Shelley, if they've picked somebody else and they have a legitimate reason to. No offense, Shelley, of course.
No, I get.
We can always give suggestions, right? It's not our job, and as Chris has pointed out, it's huge liability to steer somebody somewhere that they don't. We have to give options, right?
Yep.
So I was very concerned when this agent said to me, well, I got to get him to cancel it in writing so that I could take my second escrow there as well. And I was just like, wait a minute, your job is that's not your job. Your job is to protect your seller, put it back on the market. The minute you can put it back on the market, put it subject to cancellation of escrow. And when you get your second escrow, make sure that's all disclosed. And if the current escrow company can't do it,
Yeah.
you got to find another one. That's your job.
Can I add one other thing for brokers support? And Vonda will be jumping up and down when she hears this. Everything that you said along the lines of the transaction should have been re-verified in writing by the agent, right? I just got an email from the lender that said that we're going to need a 2-week extension for all of these BS reasons.
Yep.
Mr. Buyer, I hope you understand this and the reason why they're asking for it. Can you confirm that you get that and you're on board with the plan? What I see at the end of these deals is now they're trying to piece together all the things that may have happened or what they remember or what they thought happened or the miscommunication. And the only thing that's going to save you as the agent, regardless of the EMD thing on the dispute, is the documentation you have. And if you're not doing it along the way, how would you ever remember what someone told you or prove that you even questioned it?
That's right.
Well, and I think it becomes, at the end, when you're trying to piece it together, it becomes extremely emotional. And so things get added in and removed based on emotion.
Said something about my mother, you know.
I mean, it's got to be in writing, right?
Here's to your point too about selecting the people. A lot of times when we're in a transaction and your buyer's about to lose their earnest money, we take it personal. And a lot of times we take it personal is because we guided them in a direction where they are using our people or whatever and it didn't come through. So now you truly did lose their earnest money by steering them in the wrong way. But if you allow them to take and make their own decisions, right? You give them recommendations and they make their decisions and you don't have to take responsibility for that. If they default on the contract, they defaulted on the contract of no help from you.
Absolutely.
And that's a good place to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love the fact when I present my go-to lender, she's in like 20-point font and the rest of them are like in 12-point font. It's all about presentation, I'm just saying it, but everyone has options when they're presented with them. They can do their own research, they can make all the phone calls, but it's all about how you present it.
They're all on page 30.
There's 10-point font that says see page 30 for more.
See the micro.
That's a good topic.
Yeah.
Good topic.
Okay, so I have kind of the opposite of that. I wasn't going to talk about this today, but it brings it up. So we have a deal where we have the seller and we also have the buyer.
That's fun.
And
Are they in the same office?
they're the same agent.
Oh.
Oh, the plot thickens.
So
They're sending horrible emails to each other.
Are they in your office?
So things are moving along. We're supposed to close on Friday. So on Sunday night, the seller announces, we're not selling, we're not moving, our plans to move have fallen through and we're staying right here, we're not selling our house.
That's funny. That's what I thought you were going to bring up when you said this is happening multiple times a month, because this is happening often.
Well, I have one of these right now as well in my office.
Very often.
Yeah, it happens a
So
lot.
the buyer was supposed to go sign on Monday. Poor agent, who's a sweetheart and very on top of it, trying her best to maintain not crossing that line of doing too much for the buyer or doing too much for the seller. Seller's like, we're not selling, we're not doing it, we'll give the buyer some money, we'll do this, we'll do that. Buyer's like, we want that house. We've already given notice, we have to be out in 10 days. The landlord is trying to kick us out now. So buyers want to go forward, sellers refuse to go forward. Buyers are hysterical, sellers are stubborn, and I just basically told the agent after going through all the agent's options, I said, basically, this needs to be in a different lane. Your buyers need to have a consult with an attorney. And so that's where we are. But how do you do this? The buyer, sellers already packed. Everything is in a U-Haul, and they're like, we've changed our mind, we're not moving.
Well, I think the seller also needs to talk to an attorney.
Yeah.
It sounds like this, yeah.
You know the worst word in real estate? Specific performance. It's 2 words, I guess.
So we had an issue of specific performance in my office with both agents in my office.
Different agents.
Yeah.
Different agents this time. And so buyer was adamant they were having this house. Seller, who was elderly, his daughter, who's in Chicago, had taken over, says, we're tired of dealing with you, we're not signing anything, we're done. There were some other complicating issues, but long story short, have I ever said that before?
You notice we didn't react.
Buyers hired an attorney and said, we want that house, we have to have that house. It went to court for specific performance, and guess what?
They got a judgment.
the judgment, the house was awarded to the buyers.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, you can
Well,
actually,
they have to go through with the purchase.
Yeah.
The seller has court ordered to sell it to them.
that's even worse because now they can't negotiate at all. They've been ordered by a judge. You're selling this property for whatever it said that you were going to
terms
do.
of the contract.
Yeah, and that's actually happening quite often.
Yeah.
It's not publicized much, but it does happen.
We've had it happen on a deal personally on my team recently.
Yeah,
Where that's
and
happened.
it's sad to say this, but I wish more buyers would push through with that
Yeah.
because the contract's there for a
The
reason.
bigger problem is that type of lawsuit. Most of these are an accommodation that gets before it goes to an actual, actually in court, right? They got a judgment pretty easily as they went along with it. But specific performance, the problem with it is you can actually sue for all the what ifs. What if I would have gotten the property? What if I wouldn't have had to leave the place that I'm in? What if I didn't have to pay extra rent? What if I didn't have extra expenses? It's like a class action car suit, kind of thing. I got in an accident. Now all these things for the rest of my life are going to be affected. That can happen with specific performance. It's scary. And when a trending market that's going up, it could be really
And
bad.
that's why they put that cap on damages for the seller, because buyers walk from a lot, and you could cause a seller a lot of damage by not closing on a property, and vice versa.
That's why the seller has no outs in the contract, by the way, is once they sign that agreement, there is no out unless a buyer blows a close date. They can't cancel because the home doesn't appraise. They can't cancel because of the inspections. They can't cancel because of any of the buyer's contingencies, even though people ask that. The seller can only cancel when a buyer doesn't close.
Or if they wrote something in previous.
So plus, here's the other thing in our contract, unless they took it out in the last revision, I can't remember. But it says if we go to court, the losing party pays all court costs and attorney's fees.
It still says that.
So,
where's the
Don't lose.
specific performance in the contract? I've never seen that one.
It's in there.
If
It's
you look under default, the default section.
seller's obligations. It talks all about.
That's all about the seller then.
Yeah, so you lenders, make sure you close on time.
Yeah. All the crap that you caught.
Pressure.
No,
No wonder she's doing so many refis.
I honestly don't think a lot of lenders out there even understand the magnitude or the position they're putting a lot of these buyers in. You
I mean,
can't just
clearly.
extend like that.
When you have a 3-week extension, I'm going to throw this out here because I know everybody thinks I'm perfect. Not every deal of mine goes smooth.
we think you're perfect, Shelley.
Thank you, Janet. But I literally had one similar
Don't
situation.
ruin that for us.
We'll edit this part out.
What are you doing?
But the comeback on it was, and I would say, because they are agents of Signature, the number one thing that I commit myself to is that I communicate 100% of the time. Sure. Anytime they text, anytime they call, we're waiting on the underwriter, In this particular case, you're right. There's some things that just go above and beyond our imagination of what could really happen. In this particular case, VA actually stepped in and said, the way you're calculating this income is going to be too aggressive. And so we're thinking we're clear to close on Friday, and I'm like, happy dance, we're gonna be fine for this Wednesday. My underwriter calls me and says, hey, we have a problem. I'm like, for what file exactly? She's the one that you're closing on Wednesday. I'm like, there's no way, you're kidding me, right? And so, literally the weekend, God bless everyone, because they did everything we possibly could. My head underwriter stepped in. Everybody got it done first thing Monday morning, and we were able to kind of figure out a way to get that deal done.
The whole thing that's the problem that happens every time, and I've noticed that you're very detailed on when you explain these are the reasons why we're having the issue. This is what needs to happen to get us there. Even if you can't control it, which you can. You don't control VA, but you've given the outline of what it is. If I have that outline in writing from you, I can take it to everyone and say, this is the whole reason why we're in this issue. People understand that, and a seller or buyer will say, okay, can we make this happen or not? And they'll get it. But when a lender just says, oh, we just need 2 more weeks just to get through some underwriting, that's what agents, oh, okay, that sounds good. Why? We need to know the why behind it, because that's what people are going to buy into and understand.
Yeah.
Well, for me, if they won't tell me why,
That's
I know it's BS.
Yeah.
If they won't give me the reason why, I just know that they're not closing in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's important that you work with a lender that will communicate
Yeah.
the situation. So
I think a lot of buyers agents don't know the why because they never ask the lender the why
Yeah.
to give
Yeah.
you the why. So those are good questions. You should ask them, and they should go back and get the answers.
Absolutely. I've gotten approval letters, by the way, where when you get an offer, that's another step, is you should be calling that lender to verify that they're a real lender in business that have met the client, because I've gotten false approval letters.
So that
The best one is when you call the lender up and they go, who?
Yeah.
What's the name?
Yeah.
I'm
How do you
doing so
spell
many
that?
refinances right now, Todd. How would you expect us to? I'm just kidding.
And you think, why would someone do that? Because they're in a hot market, their client isn't fully approved, and they wanted to get them a home because they thought they were helping them out, and so they create something, right? Or the client creates something thinking, oh, I'm going to get a windfall of cash down the road, it'll be okay, and no one verifies that it was right or wrong.
For me, I always call on those listings just because, one, I want to talk to the agent. I mean, I think with Signature, the listing agent called me before I didn't even know the offer was being written. Same thing. They're like, hey, do you know I got your Macanella or whatever the buyer's name is. And I'm I'm walking with my husband. I'm like, oh yeah, just happened to pick up the phone. But I believe that it's also a selling advantage for our buyers that we take that extra step in communicating with the listing agent, because that's one, your first sign of communication, and two, your responsiveness.
Nice.
Right? Whether you're picking up the phone or you're calling into them saying, hey, I'm calling about this listing, that sometimes puts you way ahead of the multiple offers.
It does.
Right?
It really does, and that call from you really makes
We're hoping that one works out, Janet.
I am too, because that was my Sunday afternoon, my Monday morning. I'm hoping it works out,
It
Shelley.
will. It will. Oh, is it my
Do you have another topic?
Well, I do. This one is just a little off topic, then I'll come back to my big one. But I want to talk. I actually wanted to do a full 30 minutes on professionalism, but Chris vetoed that. So,
I did not. I said it.
so I just wanted to talk one thing about professionalism. So, your MLS fees were due October the 5th, and I know the people that have not paid are not listening to this. But I just want all of you to understand, if you don't pay, then you incur a late fee and you're cut off. And then we give you a certain deadline. If you don't pay by this deadline, which is tomorrow, then we are going to drop you from Las Vegas Realtors. And we do this for a couple of reasons. One is
Cold-hearted.
No refunds.
because when we go to the Board of Directors meeting on the 25th, there's going to be a list of names and companies, and these people have not paid their MLS fees.
Yep.
And the board is going to vote automatically, no discussion, shut them off.
You name
And not them, the office. They
No,
shut off the
that's
entire
what I'm
office.
saying. No,
Not just the
you
agent.
are
The
in
agents
shock.
already been shut off, right?
So if you're in the Summerlin office and you haven't paid your fees by the time the board votes to cut it off, the entire office is shut down from MLS.
And of course, we can't let that
If
happen.
you're in Henderson office and you haven't paid your fees, your entire office will be shut down.
But the Southwest, we don't.
No, everyone in Southwest is paid.
In Southwest, it's
Really?
worse
Yeah,
dearly.
that's nice.
Really?
Yeah.
So anyway, so we've emailed you, we've called you. I was appalled when I pulled the list again yesterday afternoon of who's not paid.
By the way, I was on the list.
Yes, you
I
were.
forgot. I don't, when you're president, you don't pay local dues anymore, which is really cool. It's a perk, right? But you still pay MLS fees. And so for some reason, I had a credit, like you said, I had a credit card on file that expired and it didn't go through and I didn't pay attention. So
And now we know why he didn't want you to talk about professionalism.
So, but here's what I discovered on professionalism. So I've called.
I have paid.
I've
He's
called
paid now.
all these agents, and if you call one of us, you'll get like, "Hi, this is Janet Carpenter, managing broker, Signature Real Estate Group. Please leave a message." Blah blah blah.
Beep.
Almost all the people that I called, I got the generic. The number you are calling, 702-499-3001, is not available. How unprofessional is that?
That's very true.
At least care enough about your business to have your voicemail say, I am so-and-so, I'm a realtor, and I'm with this company. Because if I need to list my house and I call you and I get the number you are calling,
It's out of service.
guess what? I'm moving on.
Better than that one.
I am moving on. So change your voicemail messages, not a generic
Yeah.
one, to say your name, the fact that you are an agent, and that you're with Signature Real Estate Group. And if I'm not mistaken, it's also an NRS violation not to identify yourself as such. If you're
All right.
using that phone.
So
I'm going to change my voice. I'm going to change my voicemail today.
I actually think we should take professionalism a step further and talk about NAR because Janet's on. She just got appointed to the NAR Professional Standards Committee, which I know she's excited about.
Yes, I am. I'm really excited. Trying to get
4-hour
for
meetings.
years.
4-hour meetings just
For
talking about
years.
it. She'll love it. It'll be heaven.
NAR.
At any hour.
One of the things that they're coming out with that'll be voted on the 13th of November is there's going to be 6 new guidelines. So what used to happen is you as a realtor technically couldn't violate the code of ethics in certain ways unless you were in a real estate transaction, engaged in one. They're going to alter that so that if you're on social media or you're out promoting yourself in a way that's documented, where you say something that people can see, you can actually violate the code of ethics out in public for your actions. Outside of a transaction. So a great example that Janet's brought up before is social media. Things that you say, your opinion, if it's derogatory or defaming or discriminatory, you could be in violation of the code of ethics for the things that you post.
I got to look all 3 of those up.
Right? Those are big words.
There's going to be a lot of agents could get in trouble on this one.
Yeah, and so the whole thing is there's no way it's not going to pass because we all believe that we have to raise the bar.
Up our game.
And you've all seen realtors out there saying things that they should never say on social media. And we get it, everyone's got the right to their opinion, and I completely support that. But you're a realtor. It's not a requirement, even though it's hard to sell houses without being one, but it's a membership. And so they're going to make that a big deal. And so please, please, please be careful what you post. And if you have posts out there that shouldn't be out there, take them down because it could hurt your business.
And the other thing that I see along with it, and I'm just appalled, the number of agents that have all these posts, and there's the F word over and over and over.
Free?
Now, how professional is that?
Forbearance.
Forbearance. Foreclosure.
I'm just saying.
Gotcha. All right.
Well, you know what the one that gets me with professionalism is, as brokers, we call agents, like for this case right here, right? I've got some agents in my office who haven't paid the $300, and so we reach out and call them, and we leave a message. And guess what never happens?
They don't call you
They
back.
never call you back. Like, that's the most unprofessional thing in the world. At least call back and say, I'm aware of it, and I'm not going to be renewing, or I'm aware of it and I'll get it handled by the 21st or whatever, but at least communicate.
Never call your broke collector back.
I think the thing is, we're here to help. And so help is a big word, and you'll be surprised at what we can help you accomplish if you just let us know. So
Yeah, just tell
we
them.
care. We absolutely care. I got my topic. You haven't said one of yours.
I'll just talk about one. It's not it's a serious topic, but it's not a big one for big discussion. But it's realtor safety.
Mm-hmm.
Been an incident this weekend where an agent was doing an open house, and she left her bag in her car on the floor, and her car got broken into.
At the open house?
Smash and grab.
Oh, my
And so there's lots of cameras. It looked like her car was kind of scoped out. It was in a cul-de-sac. But so it could have been scoped out. Somebody could have planned to do it. But the other thing is if you leave your personal belongings out on your seat and stuff like that, it's very easy for someone to break your window,
Yep.
take your stuff, and take off. So I would just say you don't want to really take that stuff inside, but you don't want to leave it there. So lock it up in your trunk.
Yeah.
And just be conscious.
Do not put it in the house.
Right.
You put your purse in the cabinet in the house, and someone walks in, goes through the house, and they grab your purse, and they're out the door. You don't want to do that either.
I lost my purse twice.
I can believe that. And have an exit route too. I see a lot of agents. I went by one the other day and they had the back slider open and the front door open, which is good because they had an exit route. And you should unlock a window in a back bedroom to make sure that in case something happens, you have a third option. I mean, that's really important.
Well, I recommend doing open houses as a pair.
Yeah.
At a minimum,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So,
Especially now.
yeah, I don't like agents doing open houses on their own. I do have a couple agents on my team that have done some on their own, and they have some protection with them when they're doing it, and I feel a little bit better about that. But I still think doing it as a pair is way smarter.
Good idea.
Yeah.
The other thing, just be cautious. We had another incident this week too that our agent took buyers into a property. Dogs were supposed to be locked in the garage. Sellers swear they locked the garage, but apparently the dogs can open the garage door, and they came out and they actually bit the buyer. So just be very, very conscious and careful of all that stuff. So
Did you guys watch The Weekender?
Yes.
of
Episode
course.
58. So Tyson was on it, and he was talking about his open house strategy. And one of the things he did on his open house was he set up in the garage with the garage door open, which I thought, what a great idea, because people drive by the house, and if you're inside with the door kind of cracked, they're kind of hesitant to get out of their car, but they see you sitting in the garage, they know it's open. And so I think that's, banners and stuff up there, and it's kind of, protect. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Well, and temperature-wise now, it's perfect.
Perfect.
It's comfortable to do it. So.
Yeah.
It's actually brilliant.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like father, like son.
How did I know that was coming?
So
Set it up for me, thank you.
So I wanted to bring up, we've been having a lot of situations because of people relocating because they're out of state or whatever reason, that we've had a lot of power of attorneys that have had to be utilized. And I've got a lot of questions from agents, what do I do in this instance? There are multiple types of power of attorney, and some allow you to sell an asset like a house and others do not. And so one of the things that we've kind of recommended is that before you go forward with any documents, that you have that power of attorney either reviewed by a legal counsel, have it reviewed by one of your escrow officers that's going to look at it and say, yes, this would give them the authority to sell the house. You should get that in writing so that you're protected to prove that the escrow officer said that, because what they're going to do is they're going to go to their title attorney and say, can we use this to convey the property? And then we need a copy of it for the file. And so I have a couple right now where they're like, well, they told me they have one. No, we need a copy of it for the file. And then they say, how do I sign if I have a power of attorney? So let's say it's a good day. Brandon gives me a power of attorney for a complete authority over everything he has. And I'm going to start selling off his properties. And so when I get that power of attorney, he's authorizing me to sign for him. And so you would sign Brandon's name on the thing, or your name, POA. But the whole point is that I have that power of attorney that's telling me the authority I have. But Brandon's still the entity. He's the entity that sells it.
That's a valid thing too, is so when you take the listing agreement in my name, then you would put my name as the seller. You don't put your name as the power of attorney.
Because I'm not the entity he is.
And then you sign it with.
You're signing on that
Yeah,
power.
I can't remember if it's his name POA by Chris Bishop,
here's how it
or if
really
it's
goes.
Chris Bishop POA for Brandon
Cut it
Robertson.
short.
That way.
It should be Chris Bishop, attorney in fact, for Brandon Roberts.
That's right. Yep.
I'm not just another pretty face.
Lovely. So, and make sure that all of that's uploaded, all of the documents, disclosures would still have to be done, and for that. So, last thing I had is my point. Have you ever heard the term Staggered Mass?
Sounds
No.
disgusting.
Sounds disgusting, right?
Sorry.
So a lot of times I'm seeing still in a market that has one of the lowest inventory shortages we've ever seen, there are still properties that are in what I like to refer to as the Staggered Mass, meaning they're not getting any showings and they're not getting any offers. And the question is, how do I get out of the Staggered Mass? And so I think it's three things affect a home in real estate: location, condition, and price, right? Location, condition, and price. And so if you can't change the location, which we don't move houses anymore.
Change the price.
Condition, you can fix a condition. You can fix the home up. You wouldn't want to decrease the condition. The only thing left is the price. And so if you're making pricing adjustments, I've had people say, how much do I make and how do I know it's working? Well, if you get into the point where there's no offers and no activity and no showings, you're in the mass. If you lower the price and now you're getting showings but no offers, you're moving out of the mass.
Right.
If you lower the price again and now you're getting showings and offers, you've now put yourself in that sweet spot of the absorption rate that actually is allowing the property to sell versus being stuck in the crap, right?
Yes.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Perfect
Yeah.
sense.
So it's a flow.
Well, I mean, that's how you gauge, that's when you take a listing and you let that first couple of weeks go by. That first couple of weeks kind of helps you gauge where you are in that scale, right? I mean, I use a baseball field because I'm a fairly big baseball fan as an example, right? Home plate that's where you want to be, right? You want to score, you want to get a close, that's where you want to be. Sometimes you're standing on second base, you're getting offers, you have an opportunity, but you're just not getting anything that is going to work. And then there's outfield where you're getting some showings, but you're not getting any offers. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's the parking lot where if you're in the parking lot, you're not getting showings.
You're having a hot dog, but you're not selling your house.
You're not getting anything. So you got to kind of figure that out as the listing goes along.
Yeah.
And I think the mistake agents make is they don't make an adjustment quick enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like if I've got a house on the market for 2 weeks and I've had 0 showings, I think there needs to be an adjustment of some kind. And agents will come to me and go, I had an agent come to me and she says, this house has been on the market for 3 weeks. Last week I was over there and I planted flowers in front of the entire house. And
What kind?
And there's this van parked in the driveway. Like the house is not selling because there's a van parked in the driveway. And I was like, well, how many showings have you had? 0. And I said, well, nobody has
That's
seen
why the house isn't selling.
nobody has seen the flowers you put in because you're not getting enough showings. And so you've got to go through the process of, you've got to get showings. I mean, at one point, NAR said it took 12 showings to get an offer on a property. That was years ago. I don't know what the statistic is now, but I mean, the real deal is you got to get people there to see the property.
Yeah.
And you've got to price it in a way that causes people to come in there. And then the other thing I see a lot is you look at the pictures, and they're great pictures. I mean, the quality of the picture is fantastic. Everything is good, but then there's those 3 or 4 pictures that are of things in the house that would cause you not to go look at it.
Condition.
So my point is leave those 3 or 4 pictures out.
Right.
Like we're trying to get showings. People get emotional when they get inside of a house. Even if there's 3 or 4 things they don't love, they can overcome those when they're there in person.
Yep.
They cannot overcome that in a picture.
It's easy for them to dismiss it.
Yeah, so be careful with what actual picture. I know you got to put up a lot of pictures, but man, don't use that one picture that's, the garage, the closet is open and there's stuff stacked in the closet and it's all falling out and half of it's, that's just not a picture that's going to.
Stop looking at my pictures.
Is there a minimum requirement for pictures?
You can do up to 50.
You do, there's a
Up
maximum,
to
but no minimum.
Yeah.
Right. But they're talking about even making more of that. But
Yeah,
more
they
is
are.
not always better. Right?
No,
Right.
your quality is better, right?
Well, that is a condition change, right? When you upload new photos, when you put in remarks that aren't like to follow. I love homes that are to follow. It'll just be
To
great.
follow.
Yeah, that's all they put, to follow, remarks about the property. And so I think the whole
Coming
point is,
soon.
yeah,
My
coming soon.
remarks will be written in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that's real
If we
conditions.
don't get enough showings and we don't get an offer in 3 weeks, I'm probably going to think about putting something.
Right after I plant flowers.
Yeah.
But no,
Move that
if you're going to plant anything, plant the St. Joseph statue in the ground.
Yes.
Sell it.
Upside down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you get those at?
The board of realtors used to sell them.
Really?
They
Yeah.
still do.
Oh my goodness.
And you know what though? I used to actually use those, but I use them for a price reduction because I would go in and I'd sit down with them and I'd put the statue on the.
Do you want the hope and pray plan?
So they would kind of look at it and I'd flip it over and I'd say, so they've given us strict instructions. And so if you do a price reduction tonight, we'll bury this. And then they would do a price reduction and it would sell because of the price reduction most likely, but every time it sold. So, and the other thing,
Bring it
on
back
a
to
price
the
reduction,
basics.
sometimes a few $1,000s if you're not getting any showings is not enough.
No, it's never, that's never enough, right?
So then
I
you
mean,
add conditions to you upgrade the property then.
you have a $700,000 house on the market and they lower it by $5,000 and they come back in 2 weeks and go, we still had no showings. Well, yeah, I mean, the reduction based on the sales price isn't equivalent. I mean, if you got a $100,000 house and you lower it by 5,000, okay, but 400, 500,
percentages,
600,
right?
you need bigger numbers. Yeah.
But your higher sales price homes are not showing as often, right? Or as frequent.
They are moving. I mean, all across the market, everywhere, the market inventory levels are lowest they've ever been. And I think it's 14 years is the time frame. So the good news is across the board they're selling, but it's different absorption rates.
We would
Yeah.
look at average days on market
For that price range.
to see if it's even feasible to have multiple showings in office.
Million plus used to be 6 months minimum monthly, but now it's down to like 3.5.
Wow.
So it's a big difference. But of course, there aren't as many listings. either.
But I'm seeing the market isn't very forgiving for overpriced homes.
No, not at all.
They're sitting there.
Can I say one last thing, just because I want to bring it up, is the referral program. So you guys know that about 5 months ago, we launched a referral program to help agents place referrals. And like every good intention, it had some issues that we had to fix. And so we have a brand new program. It's actually a system that does follow up on these referrals. So what happens is there's now a link that's going to be in my email signature starting today, and all of you would be welcome to join me. And all of you out there as well, you can just literally put it in your signature, and if your client goes on and clicks on it and says, oh, I've got a friend that is looking for an agent, we can place a referral through that, and it's a detailed questionnaire. It talks about what they're looking to get, where they're looking to get it. We do ask that they're motivated to actually buy or sell something when they go through the process.
So it's not somebody I met on the airport.
No.
They were thinking about moving
No, I own a home. No, that's not the requirement. They have to want to sell the home they own.
Got it.
But you fill that information out, and the nice thing is it has a great follow-up plan for us that's automated. So it's automated with you as the referring agent, it's automated with the agent it's going to. And I don't mean automated like it sends random emails, they're action items. You have to respond to this action item, and if you don't, I'm going to reassign the lead to an agent that will. And so we're going to eliminate any of the issues that we've had of the agent receiving it, not having as much motivation. Because, to find good agents, sometimes they're busy, the market's hot across the nation, but we're going to hold to the line that you're either going to be committed to our referrals or you won't be our referral agent. And so the nice point is that you as the agent sending the referral are going to get these updates from us, and it's really cool.
So important thing, we didn't just do a new system. We're still doing the same referral thing. We've just put some money in behind the software and stuff that's going to help us place those and track them better for you guys.
Yeah, so you can still send an email to referrals at signaturenv.com, or you can click the link on any of our signature lines to do it as well, so it'd be cool.
Yeah, it's actually cool. I see the link is in Monica's email, and I got an email from her, and I clicked on it, kind of went through it. So
yeah,
it's very cool, very easy way to get a referral placed and get yourself a 25% referral fee at some point.
And I still see agents that go on Agents of Signature and they ask for referral agents, which is absolutely fine. This is not a forced or required program. It's just there to support you in your business. And if you post it and I see it, I'm going to go on and say, yeah, I've got a fantastic agent for you. Send me an email at referrals or fill out this link.
I'll actually just post a link now instead of the referrals
Yes.
email. It's easier.
Yes.
There you go. Did we get everyone's topics?
Well, we can always come up with more.
Well, I have one more.
Well, you got 3 minutes, so go ahead.
Okay, so,
Long
Here's-
story short.
I'll try. So,
You have as much time as you need.
my agent is the listing agent. We have 2 offers that fall through. We have 2 home inspections. Here comes the 3rd offer and the 3rd home inspection. A home inspector is trooping around up in the attic. They can hear him moving things and bouncing around. He's finished. He sends the buyers a copy of the home inspection, and there is a crack in the secondary bathroom ceiling, which the sellers never use because that's their guest bathroom. So they go in there, and sure enough, there's a little crack that they've never seen before. Seller works for Water District. He's like, this is not good. He punches a hole, a little bit of water comes out. Seller goes up in the attic, finds a minor leak, repairs it, works for the Water District now, brings in a drywaller, they replace the insulation, cut out all the drywall in the ceiling, re-drywalled, repainted, perfect. Pictures taken all along the way. So the agent, doing correctly, discloses all of that to the buyer's agent, who immediately demands that the seller do a brand new SRPD. Well, it's been disclosed in the buyer's handwriting. Pictures have been sent, and this was a topic for discussion. I said, I think we don't need to redo it because this is the SRPD that he filled out when he first listed the house. We just need an amendment that says, on this date, this is what happened, here was the repair, here are the pictures, and go for there. Well, buyer's agent had a fit. She kept demanding a brand new SRPD. Listing agent says, my broker said all we had to do was do an amendment disclosing everything. We've disclosed everything. We've sent you pictures. We've repaired it. Buyer's agent demands a brand new SRPD. Bottom line, the buyers cancel. Now, I personally talked to the buyer's agent and I asked her, do your buyers want to move forward? Oh, they love that house. I asked her 3 times. Yes, they're moving forward. They're not going to cancel. Well, when the new SRPD was not done, buyers canceled.
Oh, I got some interesting news for the seller now.
What?
Since they're looking for a new buyer, they need to fill out a new SRPD.
Well, they put it back on the market, and good news is it sold in like 12
Like an
hours.
updated
What did they
SRPD.
do?
So first question though is, why didn't the first 2 home inspectors find the water leak?
Because I don't think it
Not all
was
home
there at the
inspectors are the
time.
same.
Right? I mean, that's the thing I took. Do you ever see The Water Boy with Adam Sandler?
Yes.
My mama said, my mama said, my mama said. You know, people stop using their broker as a weapon. I think that's a bad thing too, is because that just puts someone on the offensive that, oh, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I think that it's just, like you said, Janet, communication between people. I filled out an SRPD. It's the seller's disclosure. It's not mine. I don't touch it. Right? We don't have anything to do with it. Whatever they want to write on it, the only thing that we've talked about before is that it says, please check all boxes. And I believe as a broker that I should say to my client, you missed 3 boxes. Do you want to fix those? They can say no. And at the point they say no, that's what we send over. And you've now been disclosed with 3 home inspections, right? And it's up to the seller in that transaction to disclose to them, you've gotten it. Here's what we didn't know. I didn't know there was a water leak up in my attic. And so the seller's not required to redo anything because you now got that. But if the deal cancels again, then now we do the new deal. Technically, I've got to create a new document, and water damage is the only question that says ever.
Yeah, but the question should have been to the seller. The buyer's requesting a new SRP.
Should've
Do you want to fill one out?
Yep.
And if they
Yeah, so is this the case of where two agents got in the way of a transaction?
possibly.
Could be.
Could be,
No,
right?
well, and then
But my mama said,
this brings up another question
years.
to me. So I filled out the SRPD to the best of my knowledge
Sure.
6 weeks ago.
Yep.
Well, crap happens. You know, your air conditioner doesn't gradually break over 6 weeks. It stops working. So do you have to redo everything or just disclose the air conditioner stopped today? I called ABC Air Conditioning Company. They came in, they fixed it. It's now working perfectly.
Here's the thing.
But there's no issue. It's working perfectly,
But
right?
if there was an issue, if it answers one of the questions, here's the thing though, it's like a get out of jail free card for the seller. It's an opportunity to disclose
100%.
everything so that that buyer can sign off on it. Once that buyer signs off on it, it's buyer beware. And so to me, why wouldn't you want to just do another one? You know, okay, my AC didn't work, I got that fixed, here's the receipts, attach it, they sign off and you move on. And if you've had an SRPD for 6 weeks, when you accept another offer, you probably should ask that seller, do you want to update this?
Yeah.
Has anything changed?
So,
And I would probably argue that those other two home inspection reports, the seller got knowledge, because there's always an item. I've never seen an inspection report that didn't have one thing at least. Like, great house, this one thing, right? And so that is now new knowledge that the seller got. So technically, it would have been to their benefit to disclose along the way anything that they were told about the home to this new buyer.
right. So, anyway.
So I'm a fan of updating SRPDs as well. I think it's easier for everybody involved, and the sellers is better protected if they update it to the day that the offer is written. If there's something that's changed. So,
I do hate when another brokerage says, you need to check this box.
My mama
It's a
said,
blank other box. The deal's already closed. It's already been disclosed. It means nothing at this point, but they need to do that to pay their agent.
the only thing I'll tell you though, there was a massive lawsuit that was a performance item, and the reason the seller lost it and had to pay around $80,000 was the attorney looked at it and says, do you know how to follow directions? The seller said, yes. Okay, we trust that what you put in here was the best of your knowledge? Absolutely. Well, can you read line 6, and is that box, what's the answer to that box? Well, I didn't check it. Well, what's the box say? It says other. I didn't have another. So you can't even follow directions. How do we know that you even filled this document out correctly? They actually lost because of that.
Wow.
However, I agree with Brandon. I think
deal's
that
closed already.
the deal's dead. It's done. It's over. And so it should have been way back when we said, do you have any other? Right? Well, no, I don't have any other. What's other? I don't know. We'll check it in. Right?
yep. If you have another, check yes.
When the deal's closed, it's too late.
If you don't have another, do you have another and there's no?
I have no other, like
what's
my
an
other.
other could be, what are some of the others? Ring
Well,
doorbell.
If you had something special to your house that had an issue that you're disclosing, you could write it into other.
Well,
and anything I want.
like a ring doorbell, right?
It'd be anything.
I think there's even one that says doorbell though, isn't there?
They've added a bunch of stuff to it, but the reason there's other is the SRPD is actually controlled by the state legislature. To change it, you would have to go to them, have them enact a new change through the real estate division to get it fixed. And so instead of having to do that every time something new comes up, there's another box. Remember when the explanation was only this big though?
Yeah.
You're gonna check yes or no and you got 80 questions and this is the explanation. Now it's a whole page.
Right.
There you go.
And
Great
before
things are happening.
before we sign out, I just want to point out one more thing. If you want to see this up close and personal, feel free to come by the Summerlin office.
Bye, Mike.